So good day all. You may be wondering what's happening. Okay. So we are having Futsal 868 Corner Talks on a Thursday. Why? Because we have a special guest in the studio, Miss Melissa Kanhai, who is going to help us speak to the third part of mental health and emotional intelligence in sport. If you are wondering why does Geoffrey sound so flustered, it's because, guys, the laptop decided not to work this morning, and I'm using it on my phone. I'm streaming on my phone, but God is good. Melissa has really and truly been keeping me calm during this time. I have no notes with me. I'm not able to do all those fancy things, and the team is not able to do all those fancy things. So, Melissa, you are going to be my perfect co-host today, and the show is all yours. You know, we had a discussion as regards to what it is you're going to talk about. So, I am just going to allow you to speak to the topic based on your experience, based on what it is you want to let the stakeholders know, both in terms of those who are streaming us live on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page, and those who will be looking at this episode afterwards. So, once again, I want to say thank you very much to Melissa Kanhai, who is a clinical psychologist who graduated from the University of West Indies St. Augustine campus. I want to say thank you again, Melissa, for being a part of it. And people saying that Melissa said that she's much more, anxious and nervous than me. But look how calm she looks. So,
Yes, and
so
we're going to
Melissa,
speak about that in emotions today. So, yeah. So, thank you for having me, Mr. Jeffrey. It's my pleasure.
thank you very
Um,
much.
so, I'm just going to start off with a definition of mental illness or mental disorder, and that is a significant disturbance in an individual's thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that affects their daily functioning. Example, social, occupational. It could also be in academics, in sports, task performance. And that is key to remember. It must affect your daily functioning. So you would find that there is a decrease in performance. You may not be able to exert a lot of energy as much as you would like to. So I really want the audience to be aware of that. And this can be seen by other people as well. So sports professionals, you need to really be, looking closely at your athletes.
Yes. So tell us more as regards, as I said before, Melissa, bear I don't have my notes. So there was
That's
some things
okay.
that you wanted to speak to, and zoom in on specifically. Can we start with those topics, noting that we only have 30 minutes of this I would call it this lunchroom corner talk.
Yes, sure. So your panel on Sunday last did a fantastic job with regards to letting the audience know of negative emotions. Someone mentioned shame, guilt, also identifying triggers. So basically, how it works is that negative emotions lead into negative thoughts. So you can look at it as a cycle because one cannot happen without the other, and this elicits undesired or unwanted behavior. So I did a diagram here that I'm just going to hold up for the audience to just have a better understanding in terms of how it works. And then I will go into treatment methods, etc., as we go along. So basically, it is a cycle. And over here, you would see the negative emotions. But for negative emotions to occur, it is linked to negative thoughts and, of course, an antecedent, which is a situation or a series of events that actually leads to cognitive distortions, cognitive beliefs, negative thinking. It's the same thing, different wording. The psychological term that we use is cognitive distortions, which leads to negative emotions and undesired behavior. So I just have a simple example with regards to sports. So let us say that an athlete did not perform as well as they would like in a football match or a series of football matches. This can lead to cognitive distortions and negative beliefs, such as overgeneralization, where you conclude that you are a horrible player and you should quit football. And then you internalize these negative thoughts, which leads to negative emotions, such as feelings of shame, feelings of guilt, fear of rejection, fear of failure, sadness, hopelessness, uncontrollable anger. And then that manifests in outward behaviors, which we call undesired or unwanted behaviors, such as avoiding situations, people, even tasks, as well as it can be displayed in physical abuse, where you will have arguments, as well as physical fights, engage in physical fights. And this cycle, it also leads to mental illness such as depression and anxiety. And of course, um, imagine having these negative thoughts and negative emotions for days, for weeks, for months, for years. It is a cycle. And to break a cycle like this, it's very difficult sometimes. And it is a process that each individual will have to. And of course, thoughts influences behaviors, which influences emotions, which of course influences behaviors. And there's a repetition, a cycle, which can lead to depression and anxiety. And I'm just going to speak a little bit about depression, which is a mood disorder. And depression, um, it affects your daily functioning, and symptoms must be present for at least 2 weeks. In terms of feeling extreme sadness, you would have loss of interest or in pleasurable activities that you enjoy, feelings of worthlessness, insomnia, lack of sleeping, hypersomnia, overweight, loss of weight, which would be loss of appetite or overeating. You would also have difficulty in concentrating, also suicidal thoughts. So if you um, realize or become aware that you are experiencing these emotions and it's affecting your daily functioning, as seen by others as well, you should be able to see a mental health professional, which is very, very important. In depression as well, you would have very low energy, fatigue. So I really want you guys to be aware of this, which can also lead to anxiety. Anxiety is a recurrent surge of fear, which manifests in having, and you are actually at a calm state, but within minutes you go to an anxious state, and this manifests in physical and cognitive symptoms such as palpitations. Sometimes you would sweat, perspire, fear of dying, fear of going crazy, losing control. Some people feel heat sensations in their body, numbness. Some people, they actually shake. These are symptoms that you need to be aware of and should see a mental health professional. Even tell a friend, a family member, walk into a clinic, the closest health facility next to you, pick up the phone, call 911. Because early intervention can prevent a whole, as I said, a cycle from the severity of it getting worse. And I really urge, young people, especially depression and anxiety. It actually, the prevalence can occur throughout a lifetime, but it's prevalent in young adults, 18 to 29 years. So I really would urge the young people to, be aware of these emotions and thoughts that you are thinking and feeling.
What advice would you give to the peers and family members as regards to the initial counseling um, and intervention to persons who will be dealing with such mental health issues? That's one.
That is a
Two,
mhm.
two is how does emotional intelligence help with mental illness and dealing with mental illness in breaking the cycle that you just mentioned?
Okay, so I'm going to deal with the first part with regards to intervention. Yes, a strong social support base is very important, and that is why we need to educate peers, and we need for it to start as early as possible, as well, like in the school system. Obviously, you want to educate them what is depression, support things to say, things not to say with regards to someone who is going through depression, anxiety, because it's easy for people to attach a stigma with regards to just get over it, or she's mad or he's mad or whatever the case is. So you want to stay away from those negative connotations. And mental illness is something that can be treated like like a physical injury, or chronic disease like diabetes or heart disease. So you really, it's just getting the help. And one treatment method for that is understanding how medication works, psychotherapy, and of course there are other activities that you could engage in, exercises, gymming, sports, yoga, meditation. So things that you want to educate the peers and the family about with regards to having an understanding of what really it is. And there is a saying, if you don't go through it, you wouldn't know how it feels. Or even if a person is going through the same thing, they would experience it differently. So there is nothing to be ashamed of, with regards to medication. We use antidepressants. Um, so you just want to think of it like a chronic illness, like you have to take a pill for diabetes, or you have to take a pill because you suffer with, cardiovascular disease. Um, so it's nothing that cannot be treated. One, with regards to breaking the cycle with, I hope that answers your questions, Mr. Jeffrey. With regards to negative emotions and breaking the cycle, it is a process. And of course, that trained psychologists to do this, because based on an individual um, case, then we would be able to apply specific theories or the best treatment modality that is needed for them. And some treatment modalities would be cognitive behavioral therapy, where you help the client change irrational thoughts to rational thoughts to elicit the desired behaviors. That was developed by Aronti back in 1967. Then we have dialectic behavioral therapy, which was developed by Marshall Linhan in the 1980s, which modifies cognitive behavioral therapy, but it focuses on a more meditative, or it arose out of meditative practice, which is focusing on mindfulness, distress tolerance, emotional regulation, and interpersonal relations. So in terms of mindfulness, we use breathing techniques to help the client become aware of their emotions and how to respond, to manage and respond um, in situations. Interpersonal relationship, of course, understanding why your relationships have been unhealthy, setting boundaries, having respect for others as yourself, knowing what you accept, what you accept. Distress tolerance is, acting without thinking. So you want to help them, think before they act. Put yourself. You want to do um, some role modeling, some sensitive desensitization, where you put them in that situation. And then, of course, you have emotional regulation. Emotional regulation, one technique they use is distraction, where sometimes people who are suicidal, you want them to, focus on things they enjoy and what they like. And then you have one last technique, which is motivational interviewing, which is one of my favorites, developed by Milner and Rolnick in 1991. So basically, motivational interviewing is when you're with a client, what you're doing is you're sort of creating a cognitive dissonance with regards to where the client is and where they want to go achieve their end goal. So you actually want to ask questions like, what would you do to get there? How can you get there? What can you do what can you get accomplished now and our next session? And I will give you an example of motivational interviewing with regards to cognitive dissonance. So let's say, for example, an athlete has a parent who played cricket all his life, his father, and then his father wants him to become a cricketer, but he doesn't want to play cricket. He wants to actually play basketball. That leads to feelings of fear of rejection, fear of worthlessness, shame, guilt. Of course, you don't want to, oppose your parents, and that leads to low performance, poor performance in that sport. So what you want to do is create a cognitive dissonance so that they become aware of where they are, they don't like what they are doing, and then get them to actually achieve what they like doing. Of course, it's going to be a difficult process because there are feelings involved, but it's not something that can be cured, or it's not something that cannot be changed. So I really would like the parents and the peers to educate yourselves about all these treatment modalities, antidepressants, some famous antidepressants that are used, Prozac, fluoxetine, Paxil, you have Zoloft, Naproxen. So these are things that you want to become aware of, educate yourself about its uses. Sometimes people pay more attention to the side effects than the uses, but all medications have side effects that you're using. So I don't want the parents or the peers to actually be afraid of getting treatment or getting help, because at the end of the day, you want your child or you want your peer to be happy, and you want them to perform better. And it doesn't mean if someone has depression or negative thoughts or anxiety or other mental disorders, it is something you can still have a meaningful, fulfilled, happy life. And I really want to get that message out there to those who are watching us this morning.
You spoke and there was so much emotions on my end.
Yeah.
If you allow me a minute to
So,
express. Um, I remember in my second year of university at Mona campus in Jamaica, I went through 6 days of the lowest I've ever been mentally, where I was confined to a room and I didn't want to come out. Through the intervention of a fellow Trinbagonian, um, who checked on me every single day, and the prayers of my parents, that I really got out of it. Um, I also saw my dad go through a bout of mental weakness, if I would like to call it, and again through the spiritual, as well as, I agree with you, the taking of medication and getting involved in physical activity, he was able to overcome that hurdle in his life, never to have it occur again. So I am with you where I say to all who are listening to please, your mental health is something that you have to look after and take control of. In what you were speaking about, with today being the secondary entrance assessment in Trinidad and Tobago, known as SEA, formerly common entrance, we have seen a trend for years where many parents are putting additional stress on their kids to the point whereby they are making them laser focus on the academics only and reducing or even eliminating their involvement in extracurricular activity, with sports being one of them, because it's just sports alone. We have that on one side of the spectrum, and then we have on the other side of the spectrum, just as you spoke about, the parent who wants to live vicariously through their child, in
correct.
terms of sport, in terms of participation in sport. And that does not only mean participation in sport in terms of the sport that they love, but participation in sport in terms of a social status. I
Yeah.
want my child to be a part of lawn tennis because it looks good. I want my child to play golf. I want my child to be in gymnastics, all because of the optics of it. What do you say to
So
those two parents, those two groups of parents? Because SA will move into CSEC, will move into A levels, and then the development of a child is no longer. What would you say to those two sets of parents?
So first of all, I'd like to thank you for sharing that personal experience. It takes a lot of strength to actually share those, personal experiences. And, if a lot more people can share those personal experiences, I think, it can really change the world. With regards to the parents, with regards to SEA and choosing sports, um, we live in a world today where, as you said, status and focus solely on academics is all the parents think about. But you really, and then probably 5, 10, 15 years later, when a child starts to suffer from a mental breakdown, mental illness disorder, then they are going to actually, you know, um, have negative feelings towards their parents because of the high standard that the parents place on them. And I really want parents to be aware of these things. And this is where psychoeducational testing comes in, or psychoeducational assessment comes in. But first and foremost, your child mental health should come first. And we have to understand that each individual is different. Each individual have their different likes, dislikes, their strengths, their weaknesses. And the parents have to zone in on that and enhance those strengths and those weaknesses. People think of weaknesses as a weakness, but weaknesses are things that you can work on. And I really want the parents to focus on the mental health of a child, because it's not going to be really nice later on when they are projecting all their anger and everything, and blaming you, blaming themselves for not having a meaningful life that they probably wanted to have. And
But
that is
Melissa,
why I
but Melissa,
yeah,
if I may just jump in here, right?
yeah.
And we just go into the nitty gritty of it. A
Mhm.
parent is going to tell you, as good as that sound, a parent is going to tell you, this is my child. I birth him or her. I know what's good for my child. They think if my child doesn't do good in SCA, CSEC, are you going to mind my child? And all the other variations of these criticisms, I will call it, to the advice that you are given. How do we
Therapy,
get
okay.
how do we get how do we get parents to understand the gravity of this situation called mental health, and how and their involvement as agents of change towards their kids?
So let me find parents like that. No matter what you do, parents might are not going to change. And of course, God forbid, and things happen later on, then they would have to, reflect and say, they should have or would have. So to actually get everybody's minds to change, that is really unrealistic. You have to want change, and you have to want to understand change, and you have to want to understand mental health. With regards to parents, the most you can do is educate them, but you cannot change their minds. Some people would be open, some people would be willing, some people would not. And again, it all goes back to an individual basis. And psychotherapy is much larger than just getting parents to change their mind. You have to, when you are doing psychotherapy with parents, in some cases like that, sometimes their childhood, that is what they probably learned from their parents, which was passed on to them, they are passing on to the child. So I don't want the audience to have this misconception that we could just go and change everybody's minds and we could just change, all these things. Psychotherapy is much deeper than that. So you have to actually probably go back some generations. Probably there are family issues, their family stress, like Tanya was saying. So I cannot make a generalization based on that question because again, each family and individual is different. There's different dynamics in the family. The most you can do is really try to educate them. But as again, psychotherapy is one-on-one, and family therapy is the dynamics of the family. So I hope, I don't want to come out here and mislead the audience by saying we could, change everybody, all the parents' minds, and make them open. Of course, but we must commend those parents who actually are taking the initiative to, I mean, so much time we focus on the parents who are not open to mental health and not focus on the parents who are open to mental health. And we really need to give them credit for being open and supporting their child or whatever the case is, So to those parents out there, I really want to commend you all and continue taking the necessary steps to do that. So I really hope that that answers your question, Mr.
Definitely,
Edward.
definitely, Melissa. Now
Yes.
we're gonna take a quick break. As I told
Sure.
you, I don't have notes, so just make sure and check your notes so that what after the break I'm coming straight back at you as you guys so trying to
Sure.
make sure we fulfill all of the things that you want to speak to. So those who are watching us,
No
we
problem.
are having the lunchtime edition of Futsal 868 Corner Talks on a Thursday for our special guest, Melissa Kanhai, clinical psychologist. We'll be right back.
Demar,
Thank
let's
you.
let's start off just talking about something bigger than basketball. You recently came out and kind of expressed your battles with mental health and depression, which is an issue across our country right now. What was the genesis of that, and what were you hoping to cause happen?
I think, have it be something that, I know a lot of people ashamed to talk about it. Even myself for a long period of time, people wonder why I was such a quiet guy, and that was part of it, not wanting to speak out about it, not wanting other people to know exactly what I was going through. But, you get to a certain age and, where you feel like it's all about helping others. It's not about you just being a selfish person about the things you're going through. Other people going through stuff as well. If you could share that and put that on the forefront, it may could help somebody, whether if it's one person or 100 or 1,000, and I just finally got to that point to where, it's time for me to say something.
That's great. Has it impacted your basketball at all in any way, or are there any kind of special things that you do to be able to work with it?
I think basketball, my whole entire life has been my suppression to it. That's what pushed me. That's what, drive me to be the player I am today, is being able to get in the gym and have that moment, whether it's an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, to, take your mind off something and put it all into one thing. It kind of helps you forget about everything else. And, you look up and you realize the results of you using that as something that's helping you benefit you elsewhere. So, that's what the game of basketball has been for me my whole life.
Yeah. And last thing on this, have you had any other players in the NBA or NHL or NFL reach out to you after you said that?
Man, so many people, just the response that I got from it, whether it was professional athletes, just any walk of life, the positive response that I got back from it was awesome. And it made me feel good just hearing things that me stepping out doing something like that gives people the courage to, want to be able to, accept things, and, that something like that make me feel good.
Welcome back to
Yes.
Futsal 868 Corner Talk. We are the third of part three, sorry, of the three-part series looking at mental health and emotional intelligence in sport. You were looking at the NBA superstar who was speaking to mental health. And it's very interesting, Melissa. Knowing I know that you have your notes, but there's a question that came out of that watching that, which is he said that sports, which is meant to be good, was his suppressant to mental health. What are your thoughts on that?
There are many factors that could contribute to that, especially in terms of, elite athletes, the pressure for them to perform, that is one. Secondly, it has a lot to do with coaches, managers, how they handle the team, especially because there's a lot of, athletes who have suffered from depression, anxiety, eating disorders. And when you hear them speak, they would say a lot had to do with, negative feedback from coaches, from other peers, from the audience. And at some point in time, again, going back to the cycle, when these things happen over and over, and then again, fear of rejection, fear of failure, all these things can lead to someone to, feel depressed in sports, which was supposed to be, something enjoyable. But then when you are competing at different levels and people are, you want fame, you want to make parents proud, your country proud. There's so much of factors that contribute, to the depression that, it really can take a toll on you. But again, it is not something that cannot be treated or cannot be, fixable. So yes, again, it goes back to, group dynamics in terms of how it goes at all levels, the managers, the executives, everyone has to be involved in making sure that, the athletes are happy and enjoying the sports, because yes, these things can actually happen. And again, going back to you, status with regards to parents and all these things, there are a lot of factors that contribute to it. And then you would actually hear these athletes, come out and speak of, what actually contributed to their depression. Because I remembered Caitlin Ohashi, the gymnast, she was speaking that a coach, body shamed her and called her fat, and she didn't enjoy the sports anymore. So we want to be aware of these things. Some people just callously, say these things, but it takes a lot of, training as well. So we need to start, in the education system, coaches, everyone, um, in Trinidad, people say experience is everything, but at the same time, you need to learn the discipline, based on research, scientific evidence, on, cases, that, of athletes, what they went through. So, yeah.
So as I said, we were taking a break for you to gather your thoughts and make sure that we accomplish
Yes,
what we set.
everything. Yes.
Yes. So you want to speak to anything else?
Yes, so I want to speak a little bit about psychoeducational assessment and the importance of it in emotional intelligence. When people hear standardized testing, they already have a stigma to it, it's, bias and all these things. But standardized testing, psychoeducational assessment is so very important in understanding emotional intelligence, because an intelligence test, it measures certain domains, and one very important domain is verbal reasoning. And verbal reasoning measures an individual's ability to understand concepts, verbal concepts, instructions, simple as well as difficult instructions, vocabulary, word knowledge, where an academic achievement has focuses on reading, writing, fluency, spelling, all these things. Now, if a person for their age group has difficulties with understanding instructions or understanding, reasoning abilities for their age, and they have a limited word knowledge, then how are you going to expect them to write well, read well, or even express themselves in a healthy manner? And this can lead to a lot of frustration and, of course, undesired behaviors. And this is, this, you can see these in youths, where they act out, so to speak. So psychoeducational assessment should start at the primary school level, because again, early intervention is very important. So sometimes you would see a child acting out and you don't know why. Maybe they're frustrated because they don't have that language development for their age to be able to express themselves. And that could be very challenging. And of course, that's going to lead to negative emotions, fear of failure, shame, guilt, rejection. Um, and then you have parents who don't understand this. And that adds to, pressure on the child. And it can lead to, yes, mental illness as well, depression and anxiety. In Trinidad, I've seen from based on my experience, a lot of young people are actually suffering with, teenagers, are suffering with anxiety and depression. And so I really want to emphasize the importance of psychoeducational assessment with regards to understanding someone's emotions and being able to express it. um, so I hope that this, is very helpful, Mr. Jeffrey. If you have any questions on psychoeducational assessment.
I really do. I really would like you to give your contact details to persons who are listening. And I am asking for national sporting organizations, NGOs, national governing bodies to contact persons like yourselves to do this. I had a
Yeah,
conversation this morning with Miss Cleopatra Borrell, Olympian, um, concerning certain collaborative efforts between the Futsal 868 and her foundation. And it's very interesting to be able now to go back to her and see how best we can be able to incorporate how best we can be able to go back and incorporate what we what you are saying into the initiative, to the plans that we
mm,
have, because it's very
yeah,
important that we as you said, we educate and also assess our young people. I'm getting goosebumps even thinking about it. Um,
that's
having
okay.
nephews, nieces, a son, 17. I'm wondering if I even missed the mark on him, if I still have chance to be able to catch him if it is he's fallen from that point of view. And I want to say thank you very much for educating me even more. Having this one-on-one
You're
discussion, even
welcome.
at changing the routine of Sunday, has really opened up my eyes in a big way. Is there anything else that you want to discuss, or have
Yes.
we touched all
So
the
with
points?
regards to okay, so sorry, you mentioned that you were thinking 17 if you miss anything. The good thing about psychoeducational testing, intelligence educational testing, it's not only for children alone. It's it's throughout a lifespan,
Thank
at
God,
least up to
thank
maybe
God.
85 years. So of course, early intervention is better, but yes, you still can at any age. And I really would like to reiterate the importance of psychoeducational assessment because it can even pick up mental disorders like ADHD or learning disorders like I spoke about just in regards to achievement tests, etc. Because persons who have ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and there are some sports professionals who actually have ADHD or formerly known as attention deficit disorder. But with the right type of testing intervention, they are able to still play their football. And football in America is not football home. This is football, American football, as opposed to soccer. So there's a lot of players, football players here in America that actually have ADHD. So the what I want individuals to really take away from this session, besides the symptoms and treatment, is that I do not be afraid of mental disorder. Something that can be treated. You can live a, a meaningful life, a happy life, a purposeful life with the right type of intervention. And again, early intervention is better for you. So is there anything else you would like to ask me, Mr. Jeffrey?
As I said, I don't have my notes, and I want to make sure you
That's
are
okay.
happy. We have accomplished everything.
Um,
We have touched on all the points that you wanted to touch on. This is your show. And thinking about it, everything happens for a reason. Yes, I may have my notes and my questions, but just to be able to hear you free flow without me having to stop and ask you questions is really amazing. And I always say that everything happens for a reason. God knows why things happen for a reason. I want to thank you very much because
and I was
it is.
banking on your notes to reduce my anxiety. So
But do you realize that it is 40 minutes of us talking when it is you actually told me I was only going to get 30 minutes? And
that's
with that,
okay. Yes, I
I, I
understand the
really,
yes. When
I
you
really appreciate the
that's
fact that
okay.
we've been having fun in this conversation. Are there any closing thoughts from you?
Um, please pay attention to your mental health. Look for resources. Resources are so important. Sometimes you don't know where to go, who to go to. Just going into a doctor office, just going into a health clinic, because what I've noticed in point is that, some people who are depressed or have anxiety, sometimes they want to actually tell someone, but they so suppress that, of telling someone how they feel because of, the negative emotions. Write it down on a piece of paper and give someone, a friend, a family member, write it down, walk into the clinic, call 911, walk into the hospital. But always look for resources that's closest to you. There's email now. You could just send an email to a friend or family. Just type it out and send it. Just don't think about what is going to happen after. You know, if they're going to hospitalize you, if they're going to put you on medications, don't think about that. Just get it out there that, listen, I feel this way, or this is happening to me. It don't have to be a long paragraph or anything like that. And when people reach out to you, please take it seriously. Please take it seriously. Sometimes you would tell a friend, and then you would tell a friend, don't tell my parents, or don't tell, my partner, or don't tell this one. Of course, you have an individual choice, but I would like to think that that friend would do everything in their power to, assist that person who is, having these, feelings. And you have a good friend who called on you every day when you was going through your thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you have to be, grateful, you know, for that.
Online resources, one, and contact details if persons want to contact you. If you're willing to
Okay,
offer your services, feel free to supply us with that.
so, so online resources, you have psychology tools. So I would advise anyone to go on there. There are activities, anything you can do. I would not advise anything else. With regards to educating yourself, there is the American Psychological Association. There is the American Psychiatric Association. There is the National Institute of Health / Institute of Mental Health. So I would really advise you all to go on those websites, and the information is available. And you can, there are people who are willing to, answer any questions you have as well. So don't be afraid. Contact details. The email is mkanhai9@gmail.com. And the telephone contact is 718-668-4988. I prefer emails. I respond to emails faster because sometimes my phone, I don't have my phone. So those would be my contact. Of course, if you need my help in future, Mr. Jeffrey, with regards to your plans going forward, I really commend you on the work that you're doing and getting the exposure with your mental illness out there. And of course, I'm willing to work with anyone to, make the world, a better place. So I
I
hope
appreciate that. Is there anybody back home you want to say hi to?
Yes, to Dr. Anand Rampasad.
Of
Thank you
course.
so much for always being, a support from since my UE days. He has helped me a lot build my confidence. He always had that faith in me when I did really would like to thank him a lot. Of course, my father is back in Trinidad, so I would like to say hi to him, Tommy, Kanhai. Everybody knows him as that. All my friends and family members who would be watching this soon. So thank you so much for giving me that opportunity of a shout out back in Trinidad.
Of course. Of course. It's our pleasure. So, Melissa, I want to say thank
No,
you very much, and to you and your
you are
family,
very welcome, Mr. Jeffrey.
especially during these difficult times. It's just important for us to be able to remember that God is in control, and that He would always see us through. And I just ask that for Him to be able to shower and cover your entire family with the richest blessings, and also protect you all from this nasty
Thank
disease
you
that is
so much.
COVID-19. So we have been watching the 19th episode of Futsal 868 Corner Talks. I know it's a different. We were on a Thursday, but there was a reason why, and we had Melissa.
Thank you so
So
much again, Mr.
thank you very much, Melissa. But before we go, to those who are watching, thanks again, Melissa. Do have a good one.
You too, and be safe as well to you and your family, and take the necessary precautions that you need, to combat this COVID. So have a good day. Bye.
All right, bye bye. Talk to you later. Bye bye.
Yes, bye.
So that was Melissa Kanhai, and thank you very much for joining us. But before we go, we have two important messages. Given the fact of the number of persons who are contracting the disease, the virus, COVID-19, during the pandemic, we want to be able to take the time to remind you all of the different stages or the different things you need to do to please, prevent you and your family and all those around you from getting this dreadful virus. Let's take those 5 steps to defeat COVID. And secondly, but not lastly, we are one. Miss Melissa Kanhai, Dr. Edward. We represent Trinidad and Tobago. And with that being said, as our country comes out of the political battle, we have to move on. Tomorrow is a new day. And let us continue to be united in everything that we have to do. So please remember this message. This is Futsal 868. We are against racism, and remember your measures to be able to prevent COVID-19. Thank you very much. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of your week. Be blessed.